Every year, Shabbos Chanukah is always Mikeitz. I mean, at least it's always Mikeitz. Sometimes it's also Vayeshiv. Chanukah comes out on the Shabbos, 8 days. You can have 2 Shabbos, so it's Vayeshiv. But Mikeitz is always Shabbos Chanukah. So I certainly understand that there has to be some connection between the Kriyas HaTorah and the Yontiv. One of the most perplexing things in the story in Mikeitz, I'm going to go with you inside, is that we have a conversation when Yosef is accusing his brothers of being spies. They don't know he's the viceroy of Egypt is his brother. He's accusing them of being spies, and he wants to put him in jail. So there's a whole story that they say we're responsible for all this happened. Our brother begged for his life and we didn't have any compassion on him. And because now God is seeking out his blood. That's what the brothers say. The Torah tells us what the brothers were discussing when they at the sale. And then Reuven says, that's what I told you. Don't do anything against this boy. Now that's a very nice story of what happened there, but that's not the story of the sale. The sale happened years before. The sale happened almost 22 years before, and we have an account in the Torah exactly of the sale. The brothers got together, their discussion, and the sale, and it doesn't mention anything about the brother Yosef begging Rachmanis. You know how strange it is. If God forbid, if somebody wouldn't be a Torah Jew, would say that obviously the two authors of the Torah. There's the author who wrote Mechiras Yosef, and then there's a different author who decided to embellish the story, and that he wrote it in Parshas Mikeitz. No, it's in the actual. We have a story, an account at the actual time of the sale. We have an exact account. Who said what brother said what. 22 years later, we hear the brothers reminiscing themselves out loud about what happened there. And we have a different version. Why, if that's what happened, why is that not in the original story? You understand what I'm asking? There's a story that happened. The Torah gives us an account of the story when it happened in Parshas Vayeshiv. And the brothers got together and they want to kill him, throw him into one of the pits. We'll bring it back to our father, his cloak, and we'll say he was devoured by a wild animal. All that's there. 22 years later, when the brothers are standing in front of Yosef and figuring out why they're in such trouble, they're being accused of spies, they say, well, that's because we didn't have any Rachmanis on Yosef. And when he was crying, we had no Rachmanis on him. And Reuven says, that's what I told you, then don't do it. None of this is here. None of that information which comes out of their mouth so we know it's accurate doesn't appear at the time when the Torah gives us an account of the story. Wouldn't that be the logical place to write it? I can't go further until I see that everybody understands the question. Oh, everybody understands? Good. Yeah, okay. Okay. So I wanted today show and go through and say it is there, and it's fascinating. And there's so many incredible insights that it will change our Hanukkah too. Okay. Let's go back to the story. You know what? I'll start with the way it appears in Parshas Mikeitz, the new information, so to speak, that we get. This is the viceroy of Egypt talking. It's chapter 42, sentence 19, if anybody wants to look at it. If it's true what you're saying, one of your brothers should be put into jail. And then you go and bring your food back to your father. And on the way back, you bring your brother down here, so that you had another brother, Binyamin. And then I'll deal with you. I'll keep on giving you grain. But if not, you're not getting any grain from me. and you're going to die. And then the brothers said to each other, we're all responsible for this, because for what we did for our brother, because we saw how much pain he was suffering, and he begged us, and we didn't listen to him. Therefore, all this troubles came to us. And Reuven says, that's what I told you. Don't do any sin against the boy. And you didn't listen to me. And behold, now God is searching out his blood. And not only his blood, the blood of his father too. That's the story that we find this week. You would think that there should be some indication that something like this actually happened when it happened. And now let me read this story when it happened. If you all had text, I could actually show you something. Everybody read the text, and I would ask you what it says. You would all nobody would get it right. Not because I did it with the Kollel boys yesterday, and they have it right in front of them. And we're so sure what something says that we don't even read what it says. Okay. They saw him from a distance. This is when Joseph was sent by his father to visit his brothers that are in Shechem. They saw him from a distance, and before he gets close to them, they plot to kill him. And a man says to his brother, here, behold, I'll translate the way the rabbi says, Shimon says to Levi, behold, the man, the one who has dreams is coming. Let's go and kill him and throw him into one of the pits, and we'll say an evil beast ate him up, and then we'll see what happens to his dreams. And Reuven heard, and he saved them, and he saved him from their hands. And he says, no, we're not going to kill him. And Reuven says, don't spill any blood. Throw him into one of the pits that's in the desert, but don't kill him with our hands. And his intention was that he wanted to save them to bring him back to his father. Is there any indication over here that Yosef begged for his life? Nothing. Another very interesting question is, who wanted to kill him? Who were the proponents of killing him? So generally people think it's Shimon and Levi. But now let's go through the sentences. They saw him from a distance, and they plotted to kill him. Who's that? All of them. I mean, all the brothers want to kill him. Comes along, Shimon says to Levi, let's kill him. Nothing new with that. All the brothers want to kill him. But you know what? They're afraid that their father will curse him to oblivion. And they say, we'll throw him in one of the pits, and we'll say he was devoured by an evil beast. In other words, we have a way of covering it. We can cover ourselves. We can hide it. So Shimon and Levi agreed with all the brothers they should be killed. Except they added, which is an intelligent concern, if the father thinks they killed him, the father's going to be very upset with them. So therefore, we can cover it up. That was what they added. And then Reuven hears, I don't know what those words mean, Reuven hears, but Reuven saves them. And Reuven says, don't kill him. And Reuven says to them, don't spill blood. Throw him into one of the pits, which is in the desert, but don't, with our hands, we shouldn't kill him. And because he intended to bring him back to his father. What changed by Reuven? If all the brothers wanted to kill him, who are all the brothers? Reuven, in fact, he's one of all of the brothers. And not only that, Rashi actually says the reason Reuven made sure to save him was because when his father's going to go try and do some investigation, what happened here, he's going to realize he's the oldest brother, and it was his idea, and they're all following him. So not only does Rashi say that Reuven didn't try and kill him, to save him, Reuven originally wanted to kill him. And not only that Jacob, in a careful investigative process that that of what happened is going to realize that Reuven wanted to kill him.
He's the oldest, so they...
Yeah, and Rashi says because he's the oldest, so he's the leader. He wanted to kill him. So what changed? What happened now? What made Reuven change? There's no indication here. I want to suggest like this. Let's take the Reuven's words of Reuven heard, and he saved them. What did he hear? They plotted to kill him. Shimon and Levi, the only ones who spoke other than they all said, let's kill him. Shimon and Levi said, make sure we cover it up. And then Reuven heard what he heard to cover up, and then he changed his mind. Hearing a cover-up is not a reason to change your mind. Now, even if I had some doubts about my original decision, now I'm free and clear. Cover-up is a reason to do the same thing. Vayishma Reuven means he heard his brother pleading. His brother pleading for his life.
But
desperate.
He wasn't even there, though.
What?
He wasn't even there, though.
No, he was there at when they decided. Afterwards, he left. He was pleading for his life. That's what he heard. It's also very interesting. Rashi says, and he tells him, Al techtu bayelad, don't sin with this boy. So the Medrash says an interesting thing. He was only a 17-year-old boy. This is a Medrash in this week's Parshat. A 17-year-old boy. You don't think he's going to plead for his life? What is the Medrash saying? And if he'd be 25, he wouldn't plead for his life. He's married with kids. He wouldn't plead for his life. What does it mean? A 17-year. How could it be that he didn't do anything? Didn't plead for his life? Of course, Yosef pleaded for his life. He got down on the floor and beat his head by their feet and begged each one of them to not to kill him. What's that do? Because he's 17. What does that mean? Because he's 17. It doesn't make any money because he's 17. In fact, in a way, it's the opposite is true. The more connections you have, you're married, you have children, that's more of a reason to beg. 17-year-old boy is not necessarily will beg him. What did the Medrash say? He's 17 years old. He must have begged on his life. What it's saying is like this. He's called a yeled. In this week's parsha. Al techtu bayelad. And the Medrash says, 17-year-old and he didn't plead on his life. Who's called the yeled? Reuven's not. Yosef's not called the yeled. He's called the ben zakunim, which means a child of the older age. In next week's parsha, Binyamin is called the yeled zakunim. And the general way to learn, he was the children of their old age, which means that Binyamin was born 8 years after Yosef. He was 8 years younger than the youngest, Binyamin. And still the Ben Zakunim, which Rashi says that the child of my old age was Yosef. Why was Yosef the Ben Zakunim? Who should be the Ben Zakunim? Binyamin. This is a fascinating thing. Ben Zakunim doesn't mean you love a child because he's the baby. And basically, baby over there means he's 6 months younger than Dina. It's like saying I had twins and I really feel more connected to the one that came out two minutes later. I mean, in terms of, a child is 5 years younger, 1 year younger, but a child that's a couple of months younger, more than Dina, it doesn't make sense. No, Ben Zakuna means a child of the old age. When you're born and your parents are older, then you feel a deeper responsibility to help take care of your parents. A child is born when the parents are 18 or 20, 21, and they're 34 bar mitzvah, and they're married when the parents are 45. Is different than a child that's born at 35 or 40, because he knows his parents as 22, 23, 25 year older, and he grew up with young parents who played ball with him, and your parents are 40. It's a little, you feel you're born from older parents. It's a different feeling. You have to you feel you take care of them. So Ben Zakuna means the child born at an age to take care of parents. especially Yaakov Avinu was 84 when Reuven was born. So he's 91 when Yosef is born. You can hear he's a Ben Zekunim, 91-year-old father, the age of our great-great-grandfathers. You know, he may need my assistance, and I'm there to help him. Yosef was born, Binyamin was born 8 years later. Why didn't he be taken? He should have surely taken care of his father. He should be the Ben Zekunim. What happened on the day that Binyamin was born? His mother died. He was an orphan on that day. An orphan is not somebody who takes care of somebody else. What is an orphan? Somebody takes care of him. An orphan either from the mother or father. Even one parent, you're an orphan, and God forbid you start up with an orphan. God forbid, they're very, very sensitive and very... All of society actually has to treat them very gently. They're very vulnerable. So he doesn't take care of somebody who's vulnerable himself, doesn't think about taking responsibility for somebody else. He's sort of protecting himself. So he's not the Ben Zekunim. So who's the Ben Zekunim? Yosef. So who's going to take care of Binyamin?
Yosef.
Because Yaakov has to take care of Binyamin. Yaakov has to take care of Binyamin. And he's there to assist Yaakov. He's a Ben Zekunim. That means, in a sense, he's a father figure to who also?
Binyamin.
That Yosef is a father figure to Binyamin. I'm going to prove it. Very interesting. The Gemara says that when Yosef met his brothers, he finds out that Binyamin has 10 children. All the 10 children had names for Yosef. Mupim v'chupim. I wasn't at his wedding, he wasn't at my wedding. He had 10 names. It's in the Torah. That he was not at my wedding and I wasn't at his wedding. Which means it's an unbelievable amount that everything for 22 years not seeing his brother, he named an event in his life, Binyamin, for missing his brother. It sounds like an unbelievable brotherhood. Right? Now you could say it's just a brother. He's a closer brother. They had the same mother, but it can't be. We have other brothers that are very close. Which other brothers in the Torah are extremely close? Moshe and Aaron. There's no jealousy, nothing. Moshe left Egypt. Aaron is 3 years older than Moshe. When Moshe left, he was 16 or 18 years old. Aaron was 21. Moshe is gone for 60 years. Aaron has 4 children. Not one of them has a name that tells his brother's missing for 60 years. Not one of them. His brother's missing for 60 years. Something. The answer is, it's not because of the brotherhood. It wasn't because the brothers don't name after their other brother. It's because it was a / father. Yosef was a / father. Yosef was a father figure to Binyamin. So Yosef in this week's Parsha came across as being what? In Parshas Vayeshev, as being very responsible, helped take care of his father. And his father gave him responsibility because he taught him all the Torah. He put him in charge of disseminating Torah of Shem Ve'aver, the Noahide laws. That's unbelievable what Yosef was. And he didn't look to him like a Nebuch. The opposite, he's not a Nebuch. What the Parsha is saying here. So why did Reuven say, Al techtu b'yeled? What do you mean, Al techtu b'yeled? He's taking huge amounts of responsibility. He's saying, the rabbis don't mean to say that if you're 25 years old, you don't beg for your life. What it means, Al techtu b'yeled, is saying is, don't forget, even though he's usually he's only a little boy. He makes mistakes. He's undeveloped. He's not even, according to Jewish law, the time yet to get married yet. He's a young boy. Why should we kill him? He's still only a little boy, even though we see this person who took responsibilities and has dreams of grandeur and he's going to be a leader in the Jewish people. He's an unbelievable boy. But Al techtu b'yeled, Reuven said to them, he's still only a little boy. So if we think he did something wrong, we have to let that pass. Anyway, that's just how to read that part of the sentence. And he heard them, and he heard him begging and begging. He was down on banging his head at the feet of all of them. What changed by Reuven? Reuven leads the charge. Reuven's leading the charge. He's the first one. He's the oldest one. They plot to kill him right away. Shimon and Levi just said, let's cover it up. And then all of a sudden, Reuven changes. What? He hears him. Okay, hears him begging, but so what? They all heard him begging. What's about? What did Reuven understand? Fascinating insight here. This is something that's very. We'll see how it ties into Hanukkah, but it's a very fascinating life insight here too. You have siblings, brothers, sisters, and you're friendly with them. So let's say one of them comes and asks you for a loan of money. And maybe it's, you think maybe they usually act irresponsible or they must really need it, whatever it is. But usually when they came in, you knew it was your brother or sister coming in, and you figured you'll do whatever you would do based on the relationship. When a person comes in asking you for money, that's a different sibling that you knew. It means there's something in her or his life that has changed. A sibling relationship is not a static relationship that, 5 years ago we were siblings, we lived in the same house, we grew up and slept in the same bed, and we grew up. Now we're still siblings, but in any relationship, it changes. It grows in the relationship. You could be much closer than you were when you're in the same house, or the opposite, when you were competing in school or for clothes or for looks. You weren't, now you're closer. You understand each other better. And a relationship always has to be measured in what it is now. And it's never the same today as it was yesterday. A relationship changes. And therefore, he knew it was his brother, and they all knew his brother, but this is a brother that we have history with. This is a brother who gave evil reports of us to our father. We were very unhappy with him, so why should we change? Reuven was listening. This is a brother that I have to look at in a different light. This is now a brother who's desperate for his life. He's in a very desperate situation, and he's begging us. That's not the brother I dealt with till now. The brother I dealt with till now was strong, self-assured, responsible, trying to take over leadership of the brotherhood. His father put him in charge, and now he's begging for his life. That's a different brother. And therefore, when I now see him not as the strong brother, but I see him as a brother who has real needs now and issues, and he's in a very difficult predicament, his life's on the line, his heart changed towards him because he didn't deal with the brother of yesterday or last year or 5 years ago. He dealt with the brother of right now. He listened to who's the brother that's in front of me. And therefore he heard, and therefore he said, we're not going to kill him. My feelings of brotherhood are not going to let me kill him. And I know it's the feelings of brotherhood because Rashi says in Parshat Vayetze, why was he called Reuven? Where'd the name Reuven come from? The Torah says he's called Reuven, and Rashi explains from the sentences, it's clear that Leah said the following thing. Look, God, Ru'u ma ben beni leben chami. Look at the Ru'u ben. Look at the difference between my son and the son of my father-in-law. In other words, her father-in-law is Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and his father-in-law is Yaakov, and he says, look at the difference. The Yitzchak's other son. My father-in-law is Yitzchak, and look at the other son of Yitzchak, Esav. Esav willingly, this is what Rashi says there, he willingly sold the birthright. And what did he do? He's trying to kill his brother because even though he willingly sold the birthright, he's killing his brother. Look at my son. My son, the birthright was taken away from him. His father gave it to Yosef. He put him in charge. And he not only doesn't he try to hurt him, he goes and saves him. So the saving of Yosef, of Reuven, is because of what? because he was a real great brother. Look at the difference between my son and her son, and my father-in-law's son. My father-in-law's son, the brother, even though he did something stupid and he sold it, the brother, he wants to kill the brother that got it. Here it was taken away from my son, the birthright, and given to Yosef, and my son still saved Yosef. It's a brotherhood. So what changed now is a tremendous value that he has on brotherhood. He looked at brotherhood, the brother that they had problems with and bringing evil reports. That's not the brother that's in front of him. The 17-year-old brother whose life is on the line, desperate. The feeling of relationship changed for the good, and therefore he saves him. That's the story here. And that's how it fits into the story later. The Yella, what he heard, this and that. What does this have to do with Hanukkah? This is an unbelievable thing. In all relationships, a person's married. You marry a person and you have a good relationship with him. Just being married to the same person for 20 years, you're a changed person. Just being married. Not besides all the things that your spouse helped you, you helped them, which improved and changed them, they grew from. The fact you're married to somebody wonderful itself changes you. It's the same thing with our relationship to God. Fascinating thing. Abraham changed the Noahide laws, and not he didn't change Noahide laws, but he did something when he spread the word to the Goyim to keep the Noahide laws. He changed it. He added. Noahide law means observe the 7 mitzvahs: don't kill, don't rob, no adultery, no idolatry, etc. He added, bring korbanot, bring wine libations, and bow down to God. What does he do? Yeah, they're not obligated. He didn't obligate them. He encouraged them to do that. What do you think he did that for? What do you think he did that? He changed 3 things. This is I'm saying what the Rambam says. He said, I want you to... He said he convinces them that there's one God and there's no Noahide laws. And then he says to him, to the God that I am convinced you exists, it'd be proper to bring wine libations, sacrifices, and bow down in front of him. The answer is like this. God created the world for all of us that we should have the world to come. And world to come is forever and ever and ever. God created that. Let's just hear. Let's say a Gentile. He was created, does 7 Noahide laws, and what happens? He lives forever and ever and ever. No death, no illness, great quality of life. It'd be nice to live forever, right? It'd be a nice thing to live forever. You see your family, you know your family, and you constantly live, watch them grow up till they become parents and grandparents and great-great-grand. And you're close to your family. That is, I'm just giving a picture of what the world to come is. It's an unbelievable thing. And God does, because God wants to do good for us, and that's his HaTalmud. He gives all of mankind that. What's the difference if you observe the 7 Noahide laws, or you bow down to? The difference is, what relationship do you have to a God that you do the 7 Noahide laws? You're the king, master of the universe. I'm obeying your laws, and therefore, Olam Haba is what word would you use for Olam Haba? It's a reward. You're in charge. You put rules. I listen to your rules. What about a God that I bring sacrifices to? What about a God that I bow down to? A God that I bring wine libations? I have a relationship with too. He's not just the boss of the world. I have a relationship with him. The difference is now, what kind of world to come do I have? Is world to come just, he gives me great ability to live forever with my family? Or do I have a relationship with him? Do I have a relationship with him too? I actually have a closeness to him. I brought sacrifices to him. That wasn't part of the Noahide laws. I bowed down to him. I brought wine libations to him. To have a relationship with him. If you have a relationship with God, and now you're living forever, but you're connected to him. That means your world to come is you're living connected to God. That means you're growing as a human being in the world to come too. You're growing as a human being in the world to come because being connected to God changes a person. Connected to perfection actually changes a person. That's why I say the marriage, being married to a very wonderful person, changes you regardless of anything. Changes you for the better. So imagine being connected to God forever and ever changes you. Because what you were last week is not who you are today, because I had more time and more connection to perfection. Therefore, I changed. There's the Medrash says, Vayeshev Yaakov. Bikish Yaakov Loshev B'Shalva. He wanted to take it easy. And he doesn't know that tzaddikim ein lahem menucha, they don't have any rest. Lo b'olam hazeh, v'lo b'olam haba. And not what do you mean the world to come? What kind? We don't do any mitzvahs in the world to come. Why don't we have menucha there? We don't have menucha because the tzaddikim have a connection to God, and therefore they're constantly growing. They're not static. Not in this world they can't be static, and the world to come they can't be static because there's no reward in the world to come for doing new mitzvahs, but the being connected to God changes me in a positive way forever and ever and ever, and the longer I'm connected, the more and more I'm growing with my connection to God. And therefore it's an unbelievable thing that a relationship with God actually means that in the world to come, I will constantly be a growing entity. And even though there's no mitzvahs that I do, I'm still going to grow. The other option, by the way, that it's written in the Sfarim is written, that if your children do in this while they're still alive in this world, good deeds based on what they learned from you, they give charity or they do other good deeds, or they're kind, or they're doing more mitzvahs because of what they learned from you, then that is also as if you have a mitzvah. So you can actually get some schar of a mitzvah even after you're dead. But I'm saying even more than that, just having a relationship with God itself is a tremendous change. Hanukkah is the number 8. The message of Hanukkah is it's a relationship with God. The essence of Hanukkah is we have to understand that our connection to God is we have a relationship with Him, that He is connected to us because of our commitment to Torah. We put our lives on the line in order to keep His mitzvahs. It was a war from the Hellenists against our culture, and we said no, His values we want, and that merit God brought us an 8-day holiday. In fact, one opinion in the Talmud is the reason we do it 8 days because each day we have to go up. Each day we have to become holier. Milam become holier. Because that's really what happens. Because once we have a relationship with God, then all of eternity is a growth situation. The other opinion is the same way, is that we start 8 days and we go down to 7, 6, because letting us know that God, because of what we did, wants to have a relationship. Number 8 means something beyond what God created in the universe. That's what man creates. In the universe that man creates, God wants to have a relationship with us. And that relationship is what we're celebrating on Hanukkah. We're celebrating constant growth. But this has such a relevance for us. Let's talk about our children. Do you think the important thing with children, it's nice to give them nice gifts. And they feel good and they feel love when you give them a nice gift. That's great. But what does a child want from the mother and father more than a gift? Their time, their relationship. Because a child having a relationship with a mother is growing just from knowing I'm loved by a mother one day and 2 weeks, and then the more every day when I know I'm more and more loved, I'm growing in my feeling of who I am, my feeling of self-worth. I'm constantly growing in my sense of myself, a relationship. So when a mother goes out to work, and the nanny takes care, and she brings in money to the house that they can live in a nicer lifestyle. That's not about the kids. That's about there's no child that doesn't want more for a relationship with the mother. And of course, if a father has any seichel, he should also be happy that that's what his wife is adding. He said she's actually developing the children instead of saying, well, now we can make nicer vacations. Honey, I really appreciate that you're bringing in money. And what does a child want from a father? Oh, to be there for all their events too, because a relationship means it's something you grow and grow on an ongoing basis. Because whatever you thought of yourself last week, and now you have more relationship with your mother, you think more of yourself. You feel better about yourself. You grow from the relationship. This is the one thing that our modern society has forgotten. Life is about relationships and about growing from the relationship, and from the relationship itself I feel love. So if we're celebrating Hanukkah and we're rededicating ourselves to Torah values, we have to most dedicate ourselves is the value, just like God has created a relationship with us and we create a relationship with him. That's why it's an 8-day holiday. It's only the only real 8-day holiday is because this is not God's world, this is our world. The world that we invite God into because we want a relationship with him. And that's a fascinating thing, and that's what we have to keep. That everything, whether it's with our siblings also, keep those relationships going, because what you were 10 years ago, now that you've changed and you've grown from your husband, you've grown from her husband, you're dealing with somebody else, and the relationship with her is a different relationship. You'll get more from her, and she'll be developed more by you, and you'll be more developed by her. Every relationship is a static, not God forbid static, it's dynamic, and it's a constant growing. And you yourself are growing in your sense of self. The sentences actually say, every new day, when a person wakes up, there's something fresh. He's a new person every day. And therefore, every relationship I have on a new day is a new relationship. And you had bad times with somebody yesterday. That was yesterday. There's good things. Let's focus on something different today. As I say, Hanukkah, the message that I want to give everybody for Hanukkah, the message we should take back, is that just like Yosef changed for his feelings of Binyamin, because the brother that made all those troubles for them, and there was one brother. He was a brother who was empowered and powerful and took responsibility. And today's brother is a weakling, Nebuch. His life is on the line. It's not the same brother. And then he changed. His feelings of brotherhood changed, because he's dealing with this brother today is a feeling that we have to have with everybody that we're connected with. Whatever connected with every day is a constant change in the relationship. Hopefully, with most people, they're in good relationships, and with good people, they'll be adding to us. But if God forbid their problem, you have to help them out because they have a problem today. It doesn't make a difference, but there's a constant. The foundation of the world is not what God gives us unilaterally, but the ability to have a relationship with Him, and the relationship with Him is what the world to come is. That's why Avram tries to persuade the Goyim, have relationship. Otherwise, you're just going to have a car and a house and see your kids forever and ever. That's great too, but it's much better if you're going to grow as a person, because then, first of all, you'll be able to give your kids more. If you're connected to God, you'll be able to give your children more, and therefore, because you're a different kind of person. Therefore, that's what Hanukkah is. We have to think about all the things that we're going to be doing to just bask in the strength of a wonderful marriage, wonderful relation with our children and our parents and friends, and hopefully use that to grow as a person and to impact on everybody around us. Have a lichtige Hanukkah.